Well, here on Bear Radio this week, I'm joined by Blevins Franks senior partner Brett Hanson. How are you doing, Brett?
Yes, I'm doing good, thanks, Howard. What about yourself? How's things?
I'm doing very well. Always nice to catch up.
It is.
Many of our listeners already enjoying their retirement years in Spain. But we also have many tuning in from the UK who are approaching retirement and hoping to move to Spain when they finish work. They've had diverse working lives, some of them setting up their own business. If you own a UK company, over this week and next, Brett will share valuable insights into why planning and timing are everything when selling a UK business and then moving to Spain. So, interesting topic. We need 2 weeks for this, Brett. So, firstly, are you finding that UK's current tax policy is actually encouraging more people to move to Spain?
Yes, without question, Howard. We've seen an increase in the number of people exploring a move to Spain over the last few years, particularly business owners, retirees, and more recently, families who are reassessing where they want to live and pay their tax in the future. What's driving this is partly lifestyle. Spain has always appealed because of the climate, pace of life, and overall quality of living, but increasingly, tax policy is becoming a major factor in people's decision making. The fact is, Howard, many UK residents feel the tax regime there is becoming less favourable, where there have been reductions in capital gains tax allowances, higher taxes on savings, investment and rental income, and freezes to various tax thresholds, including income tax.
What about inheritance taxes for those wanting to protect the legacy they've worked hard to build up for their family? How does the UK compare to Spain these days?
Inheritance tax is probably one of the most emotional subjects we discuss with clients because people are thinking about the future of their family and the legacy they want to leave behind. Many listeners have worked incredibly hard over their lifetime. They may own a business, property, investments or savings which have accumulated over decades, and naturally they want those assets to pass to their children or grandchildren as efficiently as possible. In the UK, inheritance tax remains one of the highest taxes people can face. The standard rate is 40% above the available allowances. And because those allowances have effectively been frozen for many years while property and investment values have risen, more and more families are being affected. People often assume inheritance tax only impacts the very wealthy, Howard, but increasingly this isn't the case. A family home combined with investments or business assets can quickly push an estate above the thresholds, especially when pension funds will also be included in the calculation as from April next year. When people move to Spain, the situation becomes more complicated because Spain also has inheritance tax, but it works very differently from the UK system. In Spain, inheritance tax rules vary depending on the autonomous region you live in. Some regions offer very generous allowances and reductions for close family members, while others are less favourable. So, two families with identical assets could face very different outcomes depending on where in Spain they're resident. Another important difference is that Spain taxes beneficiaries individually, whereas the UK looks at the estate as a whole. The relationship between the deceased and the beneficiary also matters much more in Spain. What's especially important for British expatriates is understanding how the two systems interact and what opportunities there are to minimise both Spanish and UK inheritance taxes. We often help families, Howard, to review how assets are structured, how investments are held, whether wills are appropriate for both jurisdictions, and whether succession arrangements remain fit for purpose after moving to Spain. There's some fantastic planning opportunities where we can minimise both UK and Spanish inheritance taxes when British expatriates move to Spain. And this is the key point, Howard. Inheritance planning should not be treated as something to leave until later life, because when people take advice early, they generally have far more flexibility and many more options available to them.
Are there other tax planning opportunities listeners can explore?
Yes, absolutely, and this is where good planning can become extremely valuable. When clients move to Spain, it often means entering an entirely different financial and tax framework, and many arrangements that work perfectly well in the UK suddenly become inefficient for Spain. For For example, we regularly see people holding investment portfolios, ISAs, company structures, or saving arrangements that are tax effective in the UK but treated very differently under Spanish rules. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem, but it does mean those arrangements should ideally be reviewed before relocating to Spain rather than afterwards. Timing is incredibly important. For business owners, Howard, there may be opportunities involving dividend planning, extracting capital efficiently, succession arrangements, or restructuring before leaving the UK. For retirees, pension planning is another major area. Questions such as when to draw pension income, where to hold investments, or how income is generated can all affect overall tax efficiency once living in Spain. Even something as simple as the order in which assets are sold can sometimes have a major impact on the tax outcome. Another important area is ensuring people are fully compliant in both countries. Cross-border taxation can become surprisingly complicated, Howard, and people often underestimate how many reporting obligations exist once they've moved abroad. What we aim to do at Blevins Franks is to look at the whole picture together, not just tax in isolation. That includes investments, pensions, estate planning, currency exposure, residency, and long-term lifestyle objectives. Because ultimately, good planning isn't only about reducing tax, it's about creating clarity and providing our clients the solutions which will achieve their objectives, security, and peace of mind.
Is Spain's Beckham regime relevant here at all?
Yes, potentially, Howard, although it's an area where there's also quite a lot of misunderstanding. The Beckham regime is a special Spanish tax regime originally introduced to attract foreign professionals and international talent into Spain. It became widely known because footballer David Beckham used the regime when he moved to Spain, which is where the name comes from. Under the regime, qualifying individuals may be able to benefit from more favourable taxation on certain income for a number of years after becoming Spanish resident. Historically, it mainly applied to employed executives relocating to Spain for work, but in recent years, the rules have evolved and broadened somewhat. Now, in some circumstances, entrepreneurs, company directors, remote workers, and internationally mobile individuals may qualify. For certain business owners or professionals planning a move to Spain, the regime can potentially create valuable planning opportunities, especially where there are overseas income streams, investment income, or future liquidity events to consider. However, and this is very important, it's not suitable for everyone. Eligibility criteria is strict, and the regime needs to be considered carefully alongside UK tax exposure and longer-term residency objectives. Sometimes people hear about the Beckham regime online and assume it's automatically the best solution, but tax planning should never be approached in isolation. For many people, the Beckham regime may be very attractive. For others, a different structure may produce a better long-term outcome. That's why tailored advice is so important. The earlier people begin planning, the more opportunities they usually have available to them.
Thanks, Brett. We'll continue this subject next week by looking at timing and planning how to use these proceeds. In the meantime, how can people contact Blevins Franks if they want to explore this topic further?
Probably the best way to contact us, Howard, is via our website, blevinsfranks.com. You'll be able to see from there what we do, who we are, and you'll be able to locate the nearest local office to yourselves and can contact us via that means.
Many thanks. We'll talk again next week at the same time.
Take care now, Howard.